As we grow older, we often find that our priorities begin to shift in unexpected ways. What once seemed essential, like maintaining a large and active social circle, may no longer feel as important. You might start to notice that the desire to constantly be surrounded by friends or the need to keep up with numerous relationships begins to fade. It's an interesting phenomenon. And here's a truth that might surprise you. After the age of 65, you don't actually need friends in the way you once thought. At first that may sound strange or even unsettling, but when you pause and reflect, you'll see that embracing a sense of independence and focusing on your own well-being can truly be one of the most liberating and fulfilling choices you'll ever make. In this video, we'll dive deep into 7 compelling reasons why friendships aren't as necessary in your later years as they once were. Together, we'll explore how your mindset, sense of personal freedom, and even your physical and emotional health can improve when you stop stressing over maintaining friendships that no longer nourish you. This isn't about isolation or loneliness. It's about living life on your own terms. It's about creating a lifestyle that reflects your true desires, free from the pressure, expectations, and obligations that often accompany social ties. By the end of this video, you might find yourself rethinking what it means to truly live well in your later years. Letting go of the need to maintain friendships that no longer align with your values and your happiness can be incredibly freeing. And in the process, it may even transform how you see yourself and your life moving forward. Stay with us as we delve into these 7 powerful reasons why choosing independence and self-care could be the best decision you make for your peace of mind, health, and personal growth. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you enjoy this video, please type 1 in the comments. If you don't like it, type 0 in the comments to let me know so I can make better videos for you. Now let's get started. Number 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. One of the most liberating realizations that comes with age, particularly after 65, is that you no longer have to prove yourself to anyone. You've already lived through the seasons of life where social validation seemed like everything. There was a time when acceptance by others felt like a necessity, when being invited, included, admired, or even envied played a significant role in how you saw yourself. Think back to those earlier decades. So much energy was spent navigating the unwritten rules of social circles, impressing coworkers, staying active in friend groups, attending gatherings you didn't always enjoy, and making sure you fit in. You may have dressed a certain way, avoided saying what you truly felt, or kept connections alive simply because it seemed like the right thing to do. Behind it all, there was often a quiet but persistent desire to be seen, understood, and validated. But as the years go by, something beautiful shifts. That quiet urgency begins to fade, replaced by something far more valuable: inner peace. You start to understand that the need for external approval isn't a requirement for happiness. In fact, it might have been one of the greatest illusions of youth. The truth is, your worth never depended on how many people surrounded you, how many invitations you received, or how many friends you had. And now you finally see that clearly. At this stage in life, you've already done the hard work. You've built a career, raised a family, endured challenges, and collected wisdom from decades of experience. You've proven yourself 100 times over. To others, yes, but more importantly, to yourself. Now, there's no more need to chase validation, no more pressure to explain who you are or defend your choices. You've earned the right to live according to your own standards, not society's. Many younger people still live under the weight of perception, wondering if they're liked, respected, or popular. But as you age, you stop measuring your worth by how others see you and begin measuring it by how you feel when you look in the mirror. You begin to ask deeper questions. Am I at peace? Am I being true to myself? Am I living the life I want, not the one others expect from me? Take Eleanor, for instance. At 72, she found herself withdrawing from a friend group she had been a part of for over 30 years. Why? Because she realized that most of those friendships were built on shared routines, not shared values. Conversations stayed surface level. The pressure to attend events, host dinners, or participate in group vacations began to feel less like joy and more like obligation. So, she stepped back. She didn't make a big announcement or explain herself to anyone. She simply allowed herself to change without guilt. And in doing so, she discovered a new sense of self, more time for her passions, more clarity, more peace. She realized she didn't need anyone to affirm who she was or validate her choices. She had already done that for herself. This is the quiet power of aging. It gives you the confidence to stand tall in your truth without needing a chorus of voices to echo it back to you. You no longer feel the urge to be seen in a certain way, to maintain appearances, or to be accepted by people who don't truly see you. You no longer confuse popularity with purpose. Instead, you embrace authenticity. You value relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and genuine care, not ones that demand constant performance or effort. And if that means having fewer friends, so be it. Because the ones who remain are the ones who matter. You are no longer living for others. You are living for yourself, peacefully, purposefully, and unapologetically. And that's freedom. Number 2. The shift toward inner peace. As you grow older, a subtle transformation takes place. The things that once seemed essential, like socializing, begin to lose their appeal, and something else takes their place: inner peace. In your earlier years, you may have found comfort in the hustle and bustle of social gatherings, where conversation flowed freely and every event seemed like an opportunity to connect. It felt like the essence of a fulfilling life. But with time, you start to crave something much simpler: tranquility. It's not just about being alone, it's about enjoying quiet moments that allow you to recharge and reconnect with yourself, free from the noise and demands of social expectations. As friendships accumulate, so too do the responsibilities. There are phone calls that need returning, invitations to consider, and the subtle pressure to be present whenever someone reaches out. These obligations, even in the best of friendships, can start to feel like a weight you didn't sign up for, and that's where the change begins. At a certain point, you realize you no longer need to fill every moment with social activity or live up to external expectations. You've earned the luxury of choosing how you spend your time, and that often means opting for solitude rather than socializing. Take Ellen, for example. Ellen is 72 and used to have an active social life: dinner parties, book clubs, weekend get-togethers with friends. Her calendar was always booked, and she thrived on being surrounded by people. But over the years, she began to notice a shift. Many of the gatherings no longer excited her. Instead, they felt draining. Conversations often felt repetitive, and some friendships had begun to feel more like obligations than genuine connections. She realized that over time, her social calendar had started to feel more like a checklist than a source of joy. One day, Ellen made a conscious decision to change her approach to life. She stopped saying yes to every invitation and no longer felt the need to maintain constant contact with everyone in her circle. Instead, she embraced the quiet. She spent more time walking in the park, tending to her garden, and reading books she had meant to read for years. Most importantly, Ellen discovered that peace wasn't the same as loneliness. In fact, solitude became a space for her to reconnect with herself in ways she hadn't done in decades. What she realized was that peace, not socializing, was what nurtured her soul. Her life wasn't defined by how many friends she had or how full her calendar was. It was about cultivating a sense of calm that allowed her to feel content, fulfilled, and free. She found joy in the moments of stillness, and as a result, her inner peace became more valuable than any social gathering could provide. Ellen's story is a reminder that as we age, the need for constant social interaction fades, and the desire for peace and personal space becomes far more significant. When you stop seeking validation from others, and when you stop filling your days with obligatory socializing, you make room for the kind of peace that revitalizes your spirit. Number 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. As you journey through life, one of the hardest realizations you come to is that not all friendships are meant to last forever. Over the years, you may have experienced the sting of realizing that some of the people you once considered close friends weren't as reliable or supportive as you thought. Friendships that seemed unshakable can suddenly drift apart, leaving you questioning what went wrong. At 65 and beyond, you begin to understand a profound truth. Having fewer friendships doesn't just mean fewer social commitments, it also means fewer disappointments. Throughout your younger years, friendships are often built on the expectation of mutual support and connection. You check in with one another, offer advice, share laughs, and are there when times are tough. But as time passes, it becomes clearer that these relationships are often fraught with unspoken expectations. There's the pressure to maintain constant contact, to offer emotional support when needed, or to keep up with one another's lives. But what happens when those expectations go unmet? It leads to disappointment. You put in the effort to reach out, but the response is lackluster or non-existent. You find yourself always initiating plans, but your friend never seems to reciprocate. Or worse, you realize that some friendships have become one-sided, where your emotional investment isn't returned in kind. As you get older, the question becomes, is this the kind of energy you really want to spend? The simple answer is no. At this point in life, you deserve friendships that bring joy, support, and balance, not relationships that leave you feeling drained or taken for granted. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. You begin to value quality over quantity, realizing that fewer, deeper friendships bring more fulfillment than a wide circle of acquaintances who don't truly have your back. Take Clara, for instance. At 75, she had spent much of her life surrounded by a wide network of friends. In her younger years, she took pride in being the life of every gathering, the one people turned to for advice or companionship. But over time, she noticed a pattern. Some friends had become distant, only reaching out when they needed something. Others seemed to vanish entirely when she was going through a rough patch, leaving her to cope alone. Clara found herself giving and giving, only to realize that her efforts weren't being met with the same level of care. She started to feel frustrated, even hurt by the way some friendships had evolved or devolved. At first, Clara felt conflicted. She didn't want to sever ties with people she had known for decades, but the growing sense of emotional neglect made her question why she was holding on to relationships that no longer served her. Eventually, she made a decision. She would stop investing in friendships that weren't reciprocal. The weight of constantly reaching out, only to be met with indifference or neglect, was no longer worth it. Clara didn't immediately cut ties with everyone, but she began to simplify her life. She focused on the friends who truly made her feel valued, the ones who shared the effort of maintaining the relationship. She realized that by letting go of certain people, she was freeing herself from unnecessary disappointment. Instead of spreading herself thin, trying to keep up with a large circle, Clara started to focus on nurturing the few, deep connections that truly brought her joy and support. William's experience, too, highlights the same realization. At 78, he had seen many friendships come and go. Some faded naturally, while others had become strained over the years, because he was always the one doing the heavy lifting in the relationship. He had people he'd known for decades who, over time, became distant. Their once frequent visits and calls dwindled to near silence. At first, William felt rejected, as though he had somehow failed to meet their expectations. But as he reflected on it, he came to understand that he hadn't changed. He had simply grown wiser. He wasn't the one who had stopped caring. He had just stopped tolerating friendships that weren't truly mutual. And that, he realized, was okay. By the time you reach a certain age, you understand that you don't have to hold on to every friendship. The more you let go of relationships that don't align with your values or offer you genuine support, the more space you create for peace and real connection. In your later years, the realization that not every friendship needs to be maintained is a freeing one. Fewer relationships, yes, but these relationships are real, meaningful, and less likely to leave you feeling disappointed. Number 4. Your time becomes more precious. As you age, one of the most striking realizations is just how invaluable your time becomes. In your earlier years, it might have seemed like there was an endless supply of time to socialize, time to maintain relationships, time to invest in social obligations. You might have been caught up in the whirlwind of meeting people, attending gatherings, and checking in with friends. But as you approach 65 and beyond, your perspective on time undergoes a significant shift. You begin to understand that time is no longer an infinite resource. It's something to be cherished, carefully managed, and spent with intention. At this stage in life, you start to appreciate the delicate nature of time. Every hour, every day, and every moment you have left holds a value that you perhaps didn't recognize when you were younger. The urgency of youth fades, and in its place comes the realization that you want to use your time in a way that aligns with your true desires and values. And when you understand the true worth of your time, you naturally become more discerning about how you allocate it. Friendships, no matter how meaningful they may be, take up precious time. Every relationship, whether it's a phone call, a visit, or even a quick chat, demands attention and energy. While some friendships are undeniably worth the time and effort, many of the connections we maintain in our later years are relics from the past. Friendships that have become more about habit and obligation than genuine fulfillment. In your younger years, you might have felt obligated to respond to every invitation, keep up with every social circle, or answer every call. But now, as you grow older, you start to question whether these social investments are truly worth it. Does this friendship enrich my life, or is it simply a task that's become part of your routine? Take Tom's experience. At 72, he had long maintained a wide network of friends, attending various social events and keeping up with the latest group activities. He felt a sense of pride in being the go-to guy for gatherings, always ready to lend an ear or make plans. But as the years passed, Tom began to feel the weight of these social commitments. Many of his friendships, though well established, no longer brought him the joy they once did. The effort required to maintain them, returning endless calls, attending events he had little interest in, or staying up late to engage in repetitive conversations, started to feel draining. One day, Tom realized that he had to reassess how he was spending his time. He asked himself, "What do I really want to do with the time I have left? Are these friendships truly bringing me happiness, or am I just going through the motions out of habit?" Tom came to the conclusion that many of his friendships had become more about meeting others' expectations than about mutual joy. He started being more selective about how he spent his time, saying no to events that didn't excite him, and letting go of relationships that felt more obligatory than meaningful. This shift wasn't easy. Letting go of long-standing connections can be emotionally challenging, but Tom found that by prioritizing his time, he could focus on the relationships and activities that truly brought him happiness. He began to invest more time in hobbies he loved, like painting and gardening, and spent more quiet, reflective moments by himself, which he had come to appreciate more deeply. At 65 and beyond, the awareness that time is limited becomes more pronounced. You start to ask yourself the hard question, how do I want to spend the time I have left? And with that awareness, you start to prioritize your own well-being, seeking out friendships that are fulfilling and investing in activities that make you feel alive. Friendships that require excessive effort without returning joy are no longer worth your time, and you begin to see the value in surrounding yourself with people who truly bring positivity into your life. The beauty of this stage in life is that you can be more intentional with your time. Instead of spreading yourself thin, trying to keep up with everyone, you start to focus on what really matters. Your time is precious, and how you choose to spend it reflects your commitment to living life on your own terms. Number 5. True companionship comes from within. As you grow older, one of the most profound realizations is that true companionship doesn't come from a large circle of friends. When you reach 65, you've spent decades learning, growing, and evolving, which leads to a deep understanding of who you truly are. You've experienced a lifetime of relationships, challenges, and triumphs, and with this accumulated wisdom comes the realization that, at the core, you are enough. You no longer need the constant reassurance of others to feel fulfilled. For most of your life, society tells you that happiness is found through relationships, friends, family, and social circles. We are conditioned to believe that being alone is synonymous with being lonely, and that we need others to validate our worth. But when you reach a certain point in life, you start to see things differently. You begin to realize that there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. In fact, as you age, solitude can become one of the most enriching aspects of life. The quiet moments that were once filled with the noise of social obligations now become a space for self-discovery, reflection, and personal growth. Rather than feeling empty, these moments allow you to reconnect with yourself in ways that are incredibly rewarding. Take someone like Ruth, for instance. At 72, she had a rich history of friendships and family gatherings. However, after years of constant social interactions, she began to feel drained. The effort required to maintain friendships and attend social events left her with little time for herself. She decided to slow down, spending more time alone, whether it was enjoying a book, walking in nature, or simply reflecting in silence. Over time, Ruth found that solitude wasn't lonely. It was liberating. She began rediscovering passions she had long forgotten, like gardening, painting, and journaling. These quiet moments became a source of deep contentment, and Ruth realized that she didn't need others around to feel fulfilled. This shift in perspective is key. True companionship doesn't have to come from external sources, it comes from within. By learning to enjoy your own company, you no longer feel the pressure to seek constant validation from others. You become your own source of happiness and contentment, free from the expectations of social circles or external approval. Instead of feeling incomplete without a group of friends, You begin to enjoy the peace and joy that comes from self-acceptance and inner peace. Ultimately, embracing solitude allows you to live life on your own terms, where your happiness is no longer dependent on the presence or actions of others. You realize that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself, and nurturing that relationship brings a deeper, more lasting fulfillment than any external friendship ever could. Number 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. As you reach your 65th year and beyond, one of the most liberating actions you can take is to let go. Let go of the expectations that society places on you, the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer serve you, and the idea that a large social circle defines your worth. Let go of the belief that being alone equals being lonely. Because when you release these old notions and free yourself from the obligations that once governed your social life, you unlock a world of possibility, a world that is simpler, more peaceful, and ultimately more fulfilling. Over the years, many people hold on to friendships simply out of habit, not because they truly bring joy or fulfillment. They find themselves attending social gatherings they no longer enjoy, answering calls out of a sense of obligation, and keeping up appearances because that's what they've always done. There's a quiet, unspoken pressure to fit in and maintain relationships, even if they feel more like duties than genuine connections. But the truth is, you don't have to live by these expectations anymore. You have earned the right to prioritize your own well-being and happiness. Consider someone like David, who's 76 and had spent much of his life maintaining friendships that he now realized were draining. He attended every reunion, responded to every message, and kept in touch with people who didn't really understand him or his needs. At first, he felt guilty about stepping away from these friendships. But over time, he realized that these relationships were more about keeping up appearances than enriching his life. So, David decided to take a bold step. He began letting go of the relationships that no longer brought him joy. He stopped attending gatherings where he felt disconnected, stopped answering calls that felt more like obligations, and stopped pretending to enjoy activities just to avoid feeling left out. As he started to let go of these draining interactions, David found that his time and energy were freed up to pursue things that truly mattered to him. He picked up hobbies he had long neglected, spent more time in nature, and started volunteering for causes that made him feel alive. Slowly but surely, he found that his life had become richer and more satisfying. Letting go doesn't mean isolating yourself or becoming cold toward others. It means making room for the things that truly add value to your life, whether that's spending more time with the few people who genuinely care, focusing on personal growth, or simply enjoying the peace that comes with a less cluttered social calendar. The more you release, the more space you create for the things that truly fulfill you. This process of letting go isn't always easy, especially when we've been taught that friendships are essential for happiness. But as you age, you come to understand that the quality of your relationships far outweighs the quantity. Letting go of friendships that no longer align with your values, interests, or needs allows you to embrace a life that's more authentic and fulfilling. By shedding these old expectations, you open the door to a new chapter, one where your time, energy, and focus are yours to shape in the way that truly brings you joy. You begin to realize that fulfillment comes not from keeping up with others, but from living life on your own terms, embracing peace, self-love, and the pursuit of your own happiness. Letting go is a powerful act of self-care, one that paves the way for a richer, more meaningful life. Number 7. You create room for new, more meaningful connections. When you finally let go of friendships that no longer serve your growth or happiness, something beautiful happens. You create space for new, more meaningful connections to enter your life. These new relationships are not built on history, convenience, or social obligation. Instead, they are rooted in authenticity, shared values, mutual respect, and a genuine desire to connect, not because you have to, but because you want to. As we grow older, our priorities shift. We begin to value quality over quantity, depth over surface-level interaction. And when we clear away the clutter of relationships that feel like emotional maintenance, we make room for something better, relationships that truly enrich us. Maybe it's a neighbor who shares your love for gardening, a new friend you meet at a local class or group, or even a deeper reconnection with a family member now that there's more space in your life to nurture it. Take Helen, for example. She's 70 and used to spend years maintaining friendships that were mostly routine, group chats, occasional brunches, and annual birthday calls. But after some reflection, she realized many of those interactions felt more like social checklists than meaningful connections. So, she gently let them go. In doing so, she found herself naturally gravitating toward people who shared her love for art, poetry, and slow, thoughtful conversations. She started attending a local book club and built new friendships that felt lighter, richer, and more aligned with who she is today. The truth is, it's never too late to form connections that feel purposeful, but they can't come into your life if there's no space for them. Letting go doesn't mean shutting people out. It means choosing relationships that uplift you, not ones that deplete you. And sometimes it's in those later years, after we've shed what no longer serves us, that we finally attract the kind of relationships we've always needed. As we come to the end of this video, I invite you to take a deep breath and reflect on what we've explored together. The idea that you don't need friends after 65 isn't a call for isolation. It's an invitation to embrace freedom. It's about giving yourself permission to release the pressure to maintain connections out of guilt, tradition, or fear of being alone. It's about prioritizing peace, authenticity, and self-respect above all else. You've spent a lifetime building, growing, giving, and connecting. Now this chapter is about choosing what truly fulfills you. Whether that means spending more time alone, cultivating a smaller circle of deeply meaningful relationships, or simply enjoying your own company, there is no wrong path. The only thing that matters is what feels right to you. So, which of these reasons resonated with you the most? Was it the realization that your time is more precious now than ever? Or the newfound peace that comes with fewer expectations? Maybe it was the understanding that true companionship starts within. Whatever stood out, hold on to it. Let it guide you gently toward a simpler, more intentional way of living. If you found value in this video, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful, empowering content just like this. Thank you for spending your time with us today. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next video.